Time tells no lies. 81. Jesus Christ. A
Wow.
minute ago. Yeah. um, it must be crazy looking at this release you're doing now, Defiance, and then looking back at, Time Tells No Lies. How different was that writing and recording process?
Um, Very different world, but basically it was all in the analog days, that one, and basically back to organic stuff.
Yeah.
Just copy and paste and like, yeah, we'll repeat that chorus there. But we try not to do that. We actually try and play the whole song. And sometimes where the part is difficult, then we will cheat a little bit. But we use the technology to advantage really, and because of time scales and things like that, it does work quicker. But I remember doing that album at Battery Studios in Willesden, where I used to live in London, and it's lovely studio, just an analog studio, to 2-inch tape. We had Tim Freeze Green as our producer. He did the Canadian band Touch. That's right, and we love this. So we heard the stuff and we go, yeah, we'll do it for us. But the whole thing, we actually sang all the backing vocals organically. We're all three of us were gathered. Chris, myself, and Steve Carroll, our other guitarist. Rest in peace. He passed away a few years ago. But we were all gathered around this microphone, and we had to get it all right. All of us had to be in tune, and no auto tune in those days. We had to get it right, and the whole thing was organic, and we had to sing every chorus as well. So it took a while, but we got the whole sort of thing going, and Tim Freeze Green was out of that. The Mutt Lange school, that sort of thing, where they got like Def Leppard, like the big fat snare drum and stuff like that. And I remember that those days were great. I mean, just love them. I just love being in the studio. I love everything about music. I love rehearsing. I love being in the studio. Especially touring. It's great. It's another world for me.
Yeah. Now I'm curious. Do you remember the budget you were working with, as well as how much studio time you got for that first album?
I can't remember the budget. I think we got about £30,000, at that
Oh,
time,
wow.
and but obviously all that's recoupable, by the record company. It was, I think we did it within about 4 weeks. Actually, it was about 4 weeks recording.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
which is bad, in this day and age, for doing things organically and sort of playing a song from start to finish and singing it from start to finish as well. So
Yeah, well, other bands that came up with Praying Mantis got only 2-3 days in the studio, so that's actually pretty good.
yeah,
All
maybe.
things considered.
Do you know what? I can't remember. I'll say 4 weeks now, but it could have been 2 weeks actually, because I remember we did it very close to Christmas. I think we started it. Actually, we probably started it at the beginning of November, and then we were sort of through by the middle of December, I think. So yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah. Now, the next record, Predator in Disguise, came out 10 years.
Did they tell you all these other bands? Did they tell you that they did it in 3 days?
Yeah, Jaguar did it, had two.
Right.
I think Tokyo Blade had three or something.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous. And there's this band I had on the Rough. I'm not sure if you know Ruffians. They had 24 hours
Wow.
to record their album.
In those days, and that's why I can't remember, strangely enough, but you were totally rehearsed when you went into the studio. You weren't writing in the studio. You had the songs there and then, and you just go in and hammer them out. And I remember the longest thing was getting the drum sounds up. I don't know why. It took 2 days to get a drum sound or something like that.
Yeah. Now it's what do you use? Pro Tools? Yeah.
Sorry?
Do you use Pro Tools now?
I've used Pro Tools, but my favorite one is Logic.
Logic, yeah.
So
So nice. You can just copy and paste. You can just, with the multi-track, move everything around. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to give away your secret, but
you, like I said, we use cheating to our benefit. We've done the groundwork. We've been there. We've done it.
you've
So
earned it. Yeah.
Yeah, we've earned it. We've earned the right to cheat.
Yeah.
And like I said, we just use it to our advantage. They're just tools that we use to our advantage so we can get things done quicker,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Now, do
The
you
trouble,
remember?
the trouble is with this technology malarkey is you get sucked into it, and like you said, like that will do, and you go, you can't. You just look into the ass of every fucking note, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
am I doing this? And you stop being as creative as you could because you're actually getting into the technological side of things, which I love as well. But then you've got to draw the line somewhere and just kind of rise above that and get back into the creative.
Just focused on one chord for like 5 hours, because you can just get so like niche and so specific with it.
That's
I
right. Yeah, no, exactly.
crazy.
Why?
Yeah, it might make you go insane, but you'll have like the most polished thing ever. I feel.
That's it.
You know?
The polished chords.
Yeah, the polished chord. Maybe that can be the next record.
Yeah, that's the name for the
Yeah,
album.
hey, cheers.
In Search of the Lost Chord? No, the
Yeah, there
polished
we
chord.
go. Yeah, credit me. So the second release came out 10 years after. What was the defining moment when you realized it is time for the second Praying Mantis record?
Well, we just stumbled on that really because I mean the band almost broke up. Well, it did break up for a while because we didn't get an offer of an option on the second album. So we did. We all went our separate ways. Dave, who was the drummer, decided to manage the band with. We formed another band with Clive Burr, the late Clive Burr, God bless his soul. And that band was Stratus. It was Escape first of all, and then it became Stratus a little while later. And we actually wrote the album with Clive, and went on from there basically. And then that didn't get accepted when we tried to sell that album. So we put things on the shelf for a while, and then we got approached by Paul Di'Anno, of all people. Paul Di'Anno came to us, or he came to Dennis. He went to Dennis first of all, Dennis Stratton, and he said Dennis phoned me up and he said, "Do you fancy doing a tour of Japan? You know, we go Paul Di'Anno. We'll have us like a bit of a hybrid super group. You know, Praying Mantis with Paul Di'Anno and Dennis Stratton of Iron Maiden, previously with Iron Maiden, and that was offered by the big Le Grand Fromage, the big cheese, Masahito out in Japan. He's the biggest rock DJ out there. So, I mean, he said to Paul, I think Paul was trying to get Battlezone out there at the time. Battlezone or Killers, I can't remember who it was. And but Massa just suggested this thing, so we went for this, and that's what put us on the map again. Basically, we got that second bite of the cherry, and we recorded an album there, which was very fragmented because I mean, it's just like all came out of the blue. We decided to make a band out of it. And Dennis then joined the band, and we came out with Predator in Disguise. And he was writing with another guy called so was it Chris O'Shaughnessy and it's gone. Great matter. It'll come back to me later. And the album sounded very disjointed, and a lot of the drums were actually programmed on that album. So it's
Wow.
Predator in Disguise.
Interesting.
Yeah, not a lot of people know that. It was done very cleverly at the time. But I mean, if you listen carefully, I mean, it's very. But you know, lots of people have done it. I mean, Joe, Satriani does it. You know.
Oh yeah. 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 Was it weird
So,
returning after like 10 years? Like
sorry.
was it weird returning to like making music for Praying Mantis after 10 years?
No, it was just like yeah, we got a second chance here, and then we did that. We took that, embraced that, and we did a further. God knows how many albums with the Japanese, but you're going to tell me which ones these are in a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah,
so
well, we did that live album there that came out as a live album and Live at Last,
mhm.
and Pony Canyon, the record company at the time, they decided they wanted to do a studio album, carry the relationship on. So that's how we started. So
Yeah.
so after that live album, Predator in Disguise was the first one. Like I said, it was very rushed though, but it was enough to get us on the springboard, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And then 2 years later, A Cry for the New World.
right
was
for the new world.
released.
And that was this. That was like more of the crossover, sort of getting into the technical side of things. You know, it was pre-digital, but it was still analog, but started using triggers. And I remember we went into a studio in Germany to mix it with a guy called Carly Trapp, and he had this big old, you know, mixing desk thing that he bought from the Bee Gees. But he started experimenting with sort of triggers and drums, and the whole of the drum tracks that we did in London were replaced by all these machine like triggers, you know. And not a lot of people liked it. And I think, you know, sort of going back, I've still got those master tapes actually.
Oh wow.
So you know, there's time to actually maybe take a little sort of look at those and do a remix maybe.
Yeah, totally. You guys kind of moved away from the whole praying mantis theme too with that. Because you
Yeah,
had the skull planets, the bug, you know, and that's just like a crying eye.
well, I mean, like Mantis. I mean, I always think of it. I mean, a lot of people think, you know, that image always conjured up a heavy metal band, where we weren't really heavy metal as such. You know, we're more rock. And I mean, our influences came from bands like Thin Lizzy and Wishbone Ash. You know, Wishbone Ash with all the vocal harmonies as well.
Mhm.
All that during our growing up period in the, you know, mid-70s.
Yeah, yeah, very believable. You totally hear that. Now To the Power of 10 came out in 1995.
Yeah.
So did you start just working on that right after A Cry for the New World?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, all the albums seem to be about 3 years apart, didn't they? 2 or 3 years apart from each other,
In
I
the
think.
90s, every record is like 2 3 years until The Journey goes on in 03.
Steve, yeah, I mean, we're not proper rock stars, us lot, you know, because I mean, we all had day jobs. We got married and had children, and we needed to like support the. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's you know, that selfish thing of being a musician and sort of going out and touring with that, you know, that was no more. So, well, I mean, everyone was running their daytime jobs together with the band, and with, you know, in conjunction with the band, and you had this pair of trousers that was just, you know, everything. Like you couldn't split two ways, you know. It was difficult because I mean, I couldn't actually go to work. I mean, I was lucky because I was self-employed, and you know, I was a carpenter myself. In fact, I made my own guitars in the early days and stuff like that.
Oh
So,
wow.
um,
Yeah.
but you know,
Cool.
I've got to have a different head on when I'm doing an album. I say, right, I'm going to take 4 weeks off, and I'm going to concentrate on this. So that's where the difference lay with us. So we didn't capitalize on a certain album and just release another album straight away, which then gave it a little bit of time, and because it was only with a Japanese company and it was licensed to companies like Music for Nations, and it didn't really get world recognition. It was only sort of well known in Japan. We sort of built a good fan base in Japan, but we couldn't sort of get it moving anywhere else really.
Yeah, yeah. So many of because I'm a collector of like physical media, and most of them have that Japanese, you know, spine.
Yes.
That's why reissues. Listen, man, you know, in the States, there's so many. There's the whole new generation of fans that would love some like physical media. These speaking of that, the next record, which is, you know, my favorite, which actually came out the year I was born. Forever in Time in 98.
Dedicated to our father, Chris, of our father. He passed away, and we dedicated that album to him. And that song, Forever in Time, was about him.
Oh wow. Wow.
And if
Wow.
you look at the cover, there's the photograph of Chris and me with Dad, and on the back cover there was like a nice photograph of us, the family.
That's amazing. That's
And
amazing. And it's also such an epic sounding album. It's like very theatrical in points.
that was a Chris Tangarini's production as well, because we gave it to, well, I say production, I mean, we did it, but I mean, we got him to mix it, and he took it out of the digital domain, because I mean, that was the first album we did where we had our own equipment. you know, we decided to buy our own equipment. We got like this massive $50,000 advance from Japan. So we said, right.
Oh my God. Yeah.
By the time the gear was
Wow.
expensive, you know, it was like 15 grand, but we pocketed 35 grand between us.
Wow. I don't blame you, man.
Yeah,
That's nice.
and it was great to actually be in the comfort of your own home. And because I did a loft conversion, an attic conversion in my house at the time, and that was my studio upstairs. I soundproofed it all, and it's great because I mean, when you get an idea, you could sort of go upstairs and get that idea down straight away, and because it was in the digital domain, it's forever. You know, it's like whereas before when you did a demo tape, we'd have it on a cassette, and you try and emulate that moment of you produced on cassette and going to a studio, into a 24-track studio, 48-track studio even, and you can never get the same, you know, what was that magic moment that you actually first put it down. So that's the great thing about the digital domain. You can just go up there and you go, so poof, and you've done it, you know, and it's there forever.
Yeah, totally. And that's what's great about, Pro Tools, Adobe, is like you can just everyone has a home studio now.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's so nice. If you ever have a riff, you can just go to your office, or closet, I guess. um Nowhere to Hide. The 2000 came out. Again, the band's still going strong with releases, every 2 to 3 years. What was the band's mindset into going to into the 2000s?
Just carry on while we can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Just
really. I mean, it was literally it was that, and that just gave us that drive. The people just the whole sort of advent of the internet, you know, the social media, that gave us that platform to actually we embellished that to our advantage. Where I say that embellish it. I mean, we're not that great at it, you know, the social media thing, and we should be doing a lot more with that. And in fact, I tried to get my daughters on board for a little while, but wanted too much money.
yeah. I find Nowhere to Hide to be like kind of like an underrated album. Like, how do you reflect on that record?
Which ones? Sorry,
Nowhere
Brandon.
to Hide.
Nowhere to Hide. Yeah,
Nowhere to
that
Hide.
actually came out really well. Some good songs on that. I think that was the first one we actually used a digital drum kit up in my loft. You know, one of the pads ones that was playing on pads. So it's yeah. So everything was done up in my loft, even the drums.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
know.
At
But
that time,
yeah,
that must have sounded like unheard of, because you cannot do that in any random, apartment or loft or anything.
no, not these days.
Yeah, especially with
No,
how loud.
I mean, I soundproof that whole loft with the intention that I knew I was going to use it to record. You know,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I even had a floating floor in there, and I put a big steel door in at the top as well. So it's just like this, you know, double layers of drywall and triple layers, and it really killed it. So we could use it to our best.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the journey goes on in 2000. What's that?
You could be murdering someone up there, and nobody else will be able.
That's the great about soundproofing, you know what I mean? It comes with many other benefits.
That's it.
It got dark. The journey goes on in 2003, marks the end, of starting in 91, like an album every 2 to 3
That was a
years.
moment. That title was the journey goes on, and then it stopped.
It stopped. Yeah. Why have I not thought about that? Yeah. The journey, in matter of fact, ended in
It was
2003.
well. The reason it ended was it was that Japanese period. That whole thing where it's spanned from Live at Last, Predator in Disguise, the first studio album, up until Journey Goes On. So it was a big 15-year relationship with the Japanese company Pony Canyon, as well as with Dennis Stratton. And after that finished, we also fizzled out for a little bit. Because Pony Canyon had decided they didn't want to continue with the international, you know, acts. So they just concentrated on their own commercial market. And so that was the end of that sort of Japanese relationship. But I'm still very much in touch with the old A&R guy who got us in there, and I mean, he actually got transferred to the Walt Disney department.
Wow.
I know, and he couldn't do this anymore. And he was in. I mean, we were reminiscing. The last time we were in Japan, we were all together in a club, and he was crying his eyes out because, I mean, he loved the band, you know, like, because he couldn't be involved in it anymore. So it's,
Wow. Wow.
yeah, it's a bit of a downfall for all of us. But yeah, but we pressed on, and we continued, and we picked ourselves back up, and then, because at that time the later albums that we were doing in Japan were getting licensed by Frontiers Records, the record company that we're with now, and so we continued the relationship with them. It seemed nonsensical not to do so, you know. So we did that, and yeah, like we've done 4 albums with them now, so it's yeah.
Yeah, very exciting. Now, in the making of this album, did the band feel like burnt out at all, which is how fast you guys were moving in the 90s?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, we're all a lot older now, so I mean, it's yeah, things are a little bit harder, and I've got arthritis in my fingers and stuff like that. It's a lot more difficult to play these days. I've got tinnitus. I've got, you know, continuous tinnitus. I've got 7.5K squealing in my ears all day long. You know. So,
Oh, wow.
but you know, you learn to live with it. You relax into it, and you know, do some meditation to try and alleviate it, and just carry on. You know, doing. I'm always exercising as well. I'm always on the go, so I'm a pretty fit person for my age.
Sanctuary is the first record on Frontiers Records,
It
right?
is.
Yeah. How did you get in touch with Frontiers?
How did we get in touch? Well, I mean, well, we, like I said, we were licensing, Pony Canyon were licensing the albums out to Frontiers in Europe.
Ah,
Well, so that's how he kept the relationship going, and we just decided just to carry on with them.
yeah. How was it working with them, like for them being like your main label for the first time?
It's okay. I mean, they're great. I mean, everything's by the book with them, though. You've got to like, you try sort of like to do little deals here and there, but I mean, I don't, you know, it doesn't work with them like that. It's got to be by the book. You can't have this before you have this. You got to, you know, everything's got a structure to it.
Yeah, totally. Now,
At the end of this month, and then after that, we got to say goodbye to it until April. It won't be released until April, but that's to do with the whole distribution and everything, and of course all the PR, you know, the marketing and PR that goes behind it. So
totally. Yeah. Now, are there going to be like physical releases with this? Because I know with when you get an album now, it's like an 8-month wait time for it to even be pressed. Are there going to be like a vinyl release or a CD release?
yes, indeed, yeah. I mean, we're talking about getting the actual physical product out by April, which is pretty good.
Awesome. So it's going to coincide with
Yeah, but the vinyl thing might take a little bit longer. I mean, there's still sort of like a bit of delay on vinyl production, isn't there?
it's a
And
mess. Yeah, I've heard.
to the extent where a lot of our pressings were inferior on the last album, on Catharsis.
Oh,
Um,
really?
and was sent back because it was just things were jumping, you know, the thing was skipping and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it's a good press. It just sucks, man, because like bands get bumped all the time. So it takes like 8-9 months to get something pressed, you know, and then to have it be like faulty.
Especially, I think, you know, and there's, you know, especially with the whole thing with the vinyl coming back quite big time actually as well. You know, it's great. I mean, I loved an old album. I hate CDs. It's just like you can't read them. You get. I mean, most of my time, and you know, when albums came out, especially a gatefold sleeve, you just like sit there and open it up, and you'd love it. You know, you take that album out of the sleeve very carefully, put your middle finger in the
Yeah. Yeah. You should teach a class.
and you blow across it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
You got the lyrics, you know, it's that
and
Praying Mantis is such an amazing vinyl band. I feel like it's like perfect for that format.
that's right. Yeah, And the
Yeah.
pictures, the artwork as well lends itself to that as well, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I started reading the whole thing as well from start. And these CD things, can't read the print on
Yeah, you're
it.
using a magnifying glass just to see who made the album.
And then the bloody things, unless they're in the cardboard, the digipacks, they just break anyway. And
Yeah. Now, in terms of album art, Legacy's next in 2015. We've made it to 2015 at this point.
that was quick.
But yeah, from 81, one of the band's best albums ever, seriously. And it's so cool to see, how long you guys have been around. And in 2015, top 3 easily, in my opinion. What was the band's creative chemistry during the making of this album?
Just it was just like knowing each other, the way each other worked. I mean, by this time, well, Legacy was the first album we did with the Dutch guys. In fact, that's when the Dutch guys joined, and John and Hans, and they loved the band. We saw them in Holland when we were actually doing a gig in Holland, and we asked them if they fancied joining the band. And they jumped at the chance, but they expected us to be a lot bigger than we actually are. So I mean, that's a crazy thing about it, because I mean, we've got John, our singer, and Hans, the drummer. They do their own little things as well. They're in a couple of cover bands as well, so tribute bands and stuff like that, which I hate, all that tribute stuff.
Yeah.
So, but because we don't get that many gigs offers, they've got to take on their gigs, and then we do get a gig offer, and then it coincides, it clashes with the ones that they're doing. So that's always a fairly fraught period between us. So we're going, oh no, this is we can't be doing this, because our fans expect to see the band as it is on the record, on stage. We don't want to hire in another singer or another drummer, really. So, but we have done that with a drummer, but the singer's a totally different thing, really.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Gravity coming out in 2018, sounds kind of like a direct follow-up, with the sound being very similar. Was this a conscious decision?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was just working with the same group of musicians, really, that lent itself to that. That's basically it. I mean, yeah, good songs again. Everyone. The great thing is about all the reviews we've ever had of the albums, they've all been really top reviews, and we've never had really. I mean, there's one or two that we maybe have. Oh, it's not as good as the last one or something like that, but they never said it's crap or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
I don't think there's really a bad Praying Mantis album. Like you have a very consistently good discography, which it's hard to say that about a lot of bands that like have their debut in 81.
yeah, I think a lot of that, Brandon, has got to do with the longevity between each album. We're not forced to write it straight away, so we like to look at things and pull songs apart and put them back together again in a different order. And we got that. And with the digital domain now, you've got that beauty, that comfort of doing so like that. So you can actually take things apart and then go back to the drawing board and get it back in shape very quickly as well.
Yeah, and that's what must have been the case for Catharsis. Like, just in quarantine, like you're doing it on your own computer. Really getting specific with the chords, the notes.
It's difficult though sometimes. That was a very difficult period, and I found the same with this album, because we did it like this. Because there are certain bits, like John, for instance, our singer, he'd be doing it in a studio in Holland with his girlfriend's father, he's got a studio, but his girlfriend's father doesn't know what we want. We wanted to do a sort of live sort of chat and things like that, but they couldn't get the technology together at his place. So if you say, "Oh, John, you can do better than that," come on, and he said, "No, what's wrong with that?" Well, you want to put that big arm around him, Easy. You can do better than that, I know you, man, I know you. And but not having that physical contact is a very difficult thing, because you can't actually get the best out of anybody to to that. Do you know, being in the same room together, you just feed off each other, you feed each other, you know, the way you're working. And but being apart, it doesn't quite gel in that manner.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That's what I've heard a lot, you know, especially with bands in quarantine when they were just sending each other riffs. You kind of lose like being able to like bounce off creativity off one another, you know.
And when you try, you know, when you say to one of the other members, I bet you try it like that. You know, no, what's wrong with that? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
just try it, see if it works. And so yeah, people get up to you, and then you know, the phone goes dead for a while, the computer goes dead for a while. Yeah, you may be right.